Great. So I'm just going to quickly speak because, as I mentioned, I'm in the lunch break of the CEM course I'm teaching today. So I do need to eat so I don't pass out this afternoon. But I just wanted, as the chair of the exhibitor community, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for joining us today. I know we all have busy schedules. And the whole reason that I brought this community to life was when I started off in the trade show world, and then I moved around on different sides of the booth in different roles. And then when I got back into trade shows and being an actual exhibitor for the organization I work for, I learned that there wasn't any sort of support or resources or education for exhibitors out there in our industry. You have your associations. MPI is very much for meeting planners. PCMA is very much for convention management. IAEE and CAEM are very much for the people who produce the shows and organize the shows and supply the shows. So there wasn't actually anything for the exhibitor itself. So I brought it to the powers that be at MPI Global, and they said, what a great idea. This is definitely a resource that is a need, but people don't realize that it's a need there. So the purpose of the exhibitor community is to help exhibitors, show organizers, show service providers to come together and work together to create a successful trade show, because that's essentially what we're all there to do, is to have success. And it's to provide resources, best practices, learning opportunities for those exhibitors. Whether you're a seasoned exhibitor, you can share with a newbie, or you're just new to the industry like Tara is, and help you to understand the ins and outs of what it goes on when you're exhibiting at a trade show. So of course, in the course of getting this started, I met Susan Peel through the community advisory boards, and she's been a great hero and champion. And then I recruited Matt to come onto the committee to help us for his experience and expertise over the years in his role with T3 and through the industry. Tara came on board because I wanted that brand new perspective. She is really great at asking the questions that we wouldn't think of as seasoned exhibitors. And then Christina is our West Coast representative over there representing Anaheim, but I also brought her on board. We met through the exhibitor advocate. And when I was talking to her about membership in the exhibitor advocate, I recruited her to come on over to the exhibitor community to help us here. And then Sean, I brought him onto our committee so that he could offer insights from a Canadian perspective with the shows. And he's a show producer creating the Canadian Meetings and Events Expo here in Toronto every year. So I thank you all for your support as we get this community growing. I'm very excited. This is our very first event, quote unquote, where we're bringing our community together. And I'm really excited that you all took the time today to join us. And we've got big things in store going forward. So hopefully this is just the first of many things that we'll be doing over the coming months, weeks, and years. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. Have great conversation today. Share your stories, share your experiences, learn from each other, and then feel free to post in the exhibitor community in the discussion forum for any time you have questions or you come across something interesting. Please share it with us so that we can share it with our other exhibitor community members. And with that, Sean, I'll send it back over to you.
That's good. Thank you. Enjoy your lunch / teaching the next generation.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon, morning, day, everybody, and we'll connect soon.
Thanks, Stephanie.
I'm waving at my camera, but you cannot see it. But I just thought I'd let you know I'm waving goodbye.
We feel the wave. We feel the love.
Take care, all. Have a great time this afternoon.
Perfect. So with that, we can start our chat. Today's going to be a little more relaxed. Our hope is to do more of these as the year goes on, and also as there are different trade shows, conferences around the globe where some of us, tend to meet or tend to congregate. We find ways to educate, support, and meet up in person. So to start today, so Tara's going to be my sous chef to my chef here. If you have any questions, you want to put something into the chat, you don't feel like saying it or, we're chatting, she's going to look into the chat and sort of guide us along. Also, if any hands are up, she will be guiding me there so I can sort of stare at the camera versus having to keep looking down. But here we go. We'll start off with first question we'll say is what brought you here? I know a lot of us saw this in the different exhibitor community chat. What brought you here? What is your reason? What do you want to get out of this? And I don't mean today, but out of this community, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to provide is something greater where it's information, a sense of physical community, e-community for all of us to grow. So I'm gonna shut off my mic here, put it on. And I'm gonna throw it out to whoever, feels they want to share. First person to share, the prize is a glass of H2O next time I see you. Here we go.
I'm happy to share that as Stephanie said, I also, a good portion of what I do, I have my own company. So good portion of what I do for clients though is event marketing, where I do their presence at a trade show, including their room block, meeting room space, ancillary receptions, things like that. And I feel like that is not typical of what the rest of meeting planners do out there in the industry. And so, it is hard to find my people for that, so that's what I think, that's what I was looking for with this group, is to find, I'm also very involved in the small business owners community, which is great. That's how I know Steve and Rachel, but I think this community, for the fact that I do a lot of trade show stuff, that is so very different from, it's really not, but it's very, different from regular meeting planning in some ways that people don't quite get it. So that's sort of what I'm interested in.
And that makes a lot of sense. And funny enough, I came from, we'll call it the other world as well, where being a conference meeting planner first before getting into the exhibition side, it's interesting the misconceptions or, what is different. I mean, it is similar, but so that's good to hear. Is there anyone else? I'm not going to say names to bring anyone in, but if no one volunteers, I will pick someone on the committee. And funny enough, it was going to be Matt, so that's
Figures. Hello, everyone. I joined this community not just because I was voluntold by Stephanie, but I have been in the general service contractor world for pretty much my entire career outside of, a short stint with COVID. But I realized that the planning of just the booth on a trade show floor, there's such a large community that is kind of underappreciated in our overall community. And it's often overlooked. There's not a lot of education that's focused on people that are going from trade show to trade show. And it's a challenge in itself because you're basically creating a mini event within a booth that is on another event, working with multiple contractors and having to coordinate it in sometimes a portfolio of 10 different cities in less than 60 days. And it is a lot of work. And I just want to be able to share any expertise and experience I have from the contractor side, having worked with EACs, those exhibitor appointed contractors, and the planners that have had challenges, because the way that the planners are able to juggle all of that and knowing the different pricing and managing the budget it's just really incredible to see. So I can share my knowledge, and I'd love to learn from everyone else of those pain points, so then I can bring that back and help make the experience better for future planners that I work with.
I joined this community because I've been exhibiting for maybe 2 or 3 years, and I've never done it before. So I'm just figuring it out and talking to fellow exhibitors that I meet, but I definitely don't know what I don't know. And so I would love to have this community to be, tips and tricks. And I also sometimes write a blog where I can share out things, like I wrote a blog about how to stay healthy during conventions and conferences, because I don't get sick anymore after a conference. And I was like, a lot of people are interested in this, so I wrote a blog to share that. So yeah, I'm all about the sharing of info.
So I'll go. So I'm here for a couple reasons. Susan, I saw the small business owners post about this, and I thought it looked fairly interesting. I'm on the International Board of Directors for MPI, so I wanted to kind of check in from that perspective. We produce, our company, on behalf of our clients, produce 3 or 4 shows a year with exhibitors. I spent 15 years on the hotel side exhibiting at various shows as well. So I've got a lot of perspectives here. And then next week, we've got 1,000 of our closest friends showing up here in Denver for a show that we produce on behalf of MPI, PCMA, IAEE, name your alphabet soup. And Matt, are you doing a session on how to exhibit at a show?
I am not.
Well, I see an opportunity for next year.
I do. It's a good point.
So that's kind of where I'm coming from. I'm been doing this quite a long time, and I think I've got some unique perspectives, but I also like to learn new things. So that's why I'm here.
Go. So I mentioned I had heard about this in one of the Slack communities I'm in and thought it would be interesting because I came from the internal corporate event side and then moved into a marketing position with another company. And their main focus is our presence at trade shows. So that was completely new to me, but I have a rock star team that executes these trade shows all the time. But I've been learning over the past couple of years a little bit more about them. But still feel like I have that gap and also looking for those opportunities where I can connect my team to others that also exhibit, because it is its own unique animal. I mean, it's a live event, but it's different. You're managing internal folks and trying to market at the same time, then add on typical ancillary events that also take place. So you also have to have a special event flair. So just really interested in learning kind of those tips and tricks. And I'm sure my team would be thrilled to read the blog because they are always hesitant to when they come back that they're going to get sick with all the travel. So I would love that link if you could share it.
I'll go. I've joined this group similarly to Rachel. I kind of fell into trade shows 3 years ago when I started working for Visit Anaheim. Previous to that, I was doing a lot of event sales and venues. So coming in as a planner perspective now has been really fun and exciting learning about trade shows. I was especially taken with. So I had left Visit Anaheim to go work for Skyline and get the perspective of the exhibit design and fabrication. And that was also fascinating. So I'm back at Visit Anaheim. This has been a bit of a boomerang role is what I'm calling it. I'm back at Visit Anaheim to take all that information and put it to practice. So I'm here to also learn, engage, and just I'm really fascinated by this industry and that there was this industry existed and I didn't even know it. So just learning and meeting new faces.
Make sure you say hi to my pal Verna.
Oh, I will. She's awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I see, welcome Amelia.
Thanks, Sean. Hi,
Amelia
everybody.
is from Toronto as well, Toronto chapter.
I am a little under the weather today, lost my voice, but I thought to still chime in because similar to Christina, I thought this was a really interesting community and a topic, but I will just listen in for today.
That is totally fine. We had our award ceremony for the chapter last night, so totally get it. So next real thing we wanted to ask is today we're going to have a little fun, leave the fun question for last to put a smile on everyone's face before we leave, whatever time it is where you are. What is the big challenge you're seeing this year? What is something, and I mean, what does it then connect to? How can we better support as a community? Is it the 5 of us who meet every month that we could put something together? We can make it our next initiative to pull info together. Is it, you know, maybe getting a speaker from the industry to do a virtual talk? What do we each feel? And I mean, a lot of times it's the connect the dots where we're all feeling different but connected things. What's the biggest challenge? exhibitions, whether on the side of exhibiting, whether on the side of planning?
You know, I'm going to jump in here since we've got a show starting Move In Monday. The education of people that are exhibiting is lacking to a great degree based on the amount of questions we get last minute when they should have taken care of this stuff a month ago. So it's interesting as we see people that have exhibited before versus the ones that have not exhibited before, and the questions that we get, and the last minutes. Oh my God, I need electrical. Well, that was sent out 2 months ago, and you could have ordered it at that time, and now it's going to cost you a lot more money because it's a scramble. So the lack of education for people that exhibit is surprising in my mind.
Only because I know this connects directly to conversations I've had with Matt. Matt, have you seen this like increase this year as of so far, or the same as last year? And just for insight to everybody, at the event, which is an MPI event that's in Canada, Matthew, myself, Stephanie, and Marie Chantal, who's not here right now, we actually did a talk about this on where there was show manager being myself, Matthew, from the design perspective, Marie Chantal as a seasoned exhibitor, so that we can talk about the ecosystem. So I'm gonna throw to you, Matt.
It's tough because we've tried to provide checklists for people, but what we end up finding is the people that plan it aren't the people that come to the event. So the people that show up to the event, they don't have conversations with someone who's planning it, don't tell them about their needs, and then they show up and like, oh, I don't have this. So a lot of it does come from that front end communication of, it's like the age old proverb of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. But having the education extend beyond just the general service contractor and the planner, and going to the team that's on site and then being willing to listen. So we started incorporating after our chat was we have impromptu on site during the first day of move-in, before exhibitor move-in starts, optional meetings for the exhibitors to come and hear from the general service contractor to make sure they have the checklist of everything done. Because the checklist ahead of time before the show often gets overlooked. So we figured, why not? Let's walk through the checklist and invite people. We've gotten a handful, depending on the shows, that show up, but we're trying every effort we can. But if I can be perfectly transparent, I just came off of one of the world's largest logistics and shipping shows, and the exhibitors, more than half of them, didn't know how to actually fill out material handling agreements, and their whole job is shipping logistics. So even if you work in this space, doesn't mean you know what you're doing. And I'm not saying that everyone doesn't know what they're doing, but they're not communicating with each other as a whole, and that some of that disconnect is where I think, Steve, you see a lot of that challenge too.
Yeah, absolutely. We've made it a point in the last year to for exhibitors to, when we send an email out, to not only send it to who's planning it, but also the on-site contact, so they're all seeing the same thing. Whether they read it or not is another question. That's the the biggest problem, I think, with most communications like that, is they'll skim over it, but they won't read it.
In our scenario, we've got a team of event managers that handle kind of the tier 1, tier 2 events. But there's a whole slew of commercial folks that are doing their own events because they're sales driven, sales led, they're smaller, tabletops or pop-ups in hotels. But they, from time to time, will run across a show that's a little bit bigger than what they're used to. And just don't know what they don't know, don't understand the exhibitor portal, don't understand all the acronyms. They're sales folks. But the events aren't complex enough for my team to own them or drive them or coordinate them, because they've got to put their focuses on the larger events that require a little bit different of a skill set. And so I can't imagine what the exhibitors must, or the show organizers must go through trying to juggle all those folks that don't realize they can't just come and ask for power when they get there, versus those that, are trying to make sure they hit an advanced warehouse. So, yeah, I can see it being very challenging on both sides. We just don't have the bandwidth to manage every single show that the team might want to show up to.
Yeah, there's definitely a challenge of like, I do 10 by 10s for one client where literally I'm doing all the ordering, all the forms, and then I don't go on site. It's a salesperson basically. And I do try to do, like yesterday, I did a briefing with one that this is her first show next week, just make sure she knew how the booth was set up and, those kind of things. But it is always a challenge because it's hard to cover everything. And as somebody might, the terminology is definitely different than meeting planning, and people don't understand about material handling. And it's hard to really explain some of that too. But I also have a challenge with show site people. Like, I feel like I'm getting, or like from general service contractors, too many emails. I had a show that was at the beginning of February, and in December 1st, they're like, deadline coming soon. And I'm like, it's January 9th. That's not coming soon. Like, to me, that's a month. And every week I got that same email, and then I did it and I'm still getting the emails. And I'm like, did I do it? I have to remember, did I do, go back and look. And that kind of frustration too. It's almost like too much communication sometimes. I have a lot of shows where I'm getting the same email every week. And I'm like, I already did this. I've already completed all the orders. I've already completed my shipping information. And I can't remember because I'm working on 10 shows at one time. And so I have that frustration too. And especially lately, it seems like there's more and more of that. I don't know, how anyone else is feeling about that, but that almost seems like a waste of time when I get another email that says, oh, both orders are open, been extended till next week. And I'm like, I think I already did it for that show, but I can't remember because I've got 6 others. So I have to now take the time to go look and make sure I did those orders, and it's kind of driving me a little crazy right now.
Oh,
That actually sounds very overwhelming.
It is. And then, my other client, I'm doing 30 by 40, 30 by 50 booth sets. So I go and I'm, we have all kinds of stuff going on with those. But even those, it's like these little booths. It's like I spend more time just making sure I've double checked and redone this stuff,
So let's flip that in this way. So as a show manager on my end, what would you like to tell me as the person I'm working with? Because it seems you're very organized. It seems you're one of the people.
And I'm sure I might be more the exception to the rule, especially when it comes to those small.
Oh, that's fine.
Because these the shows with 10 by 10s,
100%
tabletops.
I would say more like devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Even though you might be the exception, which is great. Like, I'll give you snaps, claps for that. Love it. What do you want the average show manager to know? Like, what are things you find effective? Even though, we may not know each other, what do you find effective that a show manager does? I now know you do not like the repetition. That's something we try to be very careful where, okay, I see Matt's forms came in. I see Steve's came in. I see Susan's came in. Take them off the list so that they're not getting it. But Amelia, Christina, unfortunately, yours have not come in. You'll get it. What are things you do find effective? What gets you to say, oh my God, gotta do it now. This is organized.
What I love is I've had some clients on their exhibitor portal, so the association probably does this more than a show management, than a GSC, is have a checklist. And I'm like, okay, check, did my booth orders, check, did my COI if that's needed, check, did my, shipping, and then stop sending me the communication about those things if I've already done it. But also then there's a place I know I can go back to and go, okay, I did do these things. I've checked them off, because sometimes I'm not sure where I have that documentation, to be honest. Especially because I'm working with multiple clients and multiple, that's just the nature of my business too. But something along those lines of like one place where I can go, there's a checklist for that show and I've done it all. And I guess, I could develop them myself, but, every show's a little different on that. So as a positive, that's something I would recommend.
Oh, that's good to know. A question on this to everyone here. Has anyone, because this is something I'm hearing in the industry, has anyone seen shows start going a bit more digital or video instead of doing all the checklist or all the written communication, doing even almost like when you have a show app, right? And you get a 30 to 60 second, this is how you log on, this is how you sign up. Has anyone seen any sort of digital or video guides? I would say it's very emerging, not a lot of them. And if not, is that something you think would help you in your day-to-day if you're planning a show? Because I don't know all of you and what you do. Like Matthew, is that something on your end you've ever seen, heard of, thoughts?
We did it for a little bit at T3 where we had the videos, but there was no click-throughs because we could monitor the data that how many people were actually utilizing it, and no one would. We tried to implement it in some of our welcome emails as well to see if we could increase clicks, and we still weren't getting the click-throughs. So we ended up taking them down off of the website. Not saying they won't work or they couldn't work, but we haven't seen success with it.
We have not done that.
Is that something you've ever thought of, or?
We've thought of it. The biggest show we manage is landscape contractors and architects, greenhouses, nurseries, and most of them don't have computer access, and they're carrying around. They do everything on their phones, and they're just not going to pay attention to something like that on their phone.
No, that makes sense. I mean, you got to know your demographic if it's not going to work. It's so hard because I don't think it's not even that it's a great idea or the idea. It's so hard when I think we all know how many emails we get in a day, how many spam emails. I'm still getting a text at least 3 a day from a bubble tea place I signed up to get $5 off 7 years ago. And I keep getting it. So I mean, we live in a world of junk where it keeps coming. And I know one of the things on our end, the other thing, and I guess segue a little into this, is whether you're planning the show, whether you're supplying the show, whether you're, like someone like Amila who's maybe exhibiting at the show, spam emails from, here's your, selling fake lists, selling fake hotels. How are people dealing with that as well? Because I know an issue we've seen is there's a lot of exhibitors who say, oh my God, I and did not see this coming from you because I get so many spam that I'm delete. So I'm not sure, has anyone else seen that? Has anyone found that is part of the reason maybe they're not getting the retention rate they're looking for?
I think that's absolutely it. Is everybody gets so many emails a day. When they get 3 emails from one show, like Susan said, it's how do you track that? We think about it consciously, Susan, just so you know. Can we afford to send another email this week?
Yeah.
Is it going to
Well,
drive
and for me, it was
crazy?
the sense of urgency that, booth orders are closing soon. To me, closing soon's in a week.
Well, it's
not
kind of
6
like
weeks.
kinda
So
like
like those one bug me a little bit, just the messaging on them. But yeah, it's interesting. I usually try to attend if they do an exhibitor webinar, a show. But the idea of Sean of like them having short videos of this one's about just this part of it or this part of it. Because if I can't attend those, I try to listen to the recording, and 90% of it I don't need, but there's always that one nugget I need. And so like if it's in smaller bites, that might be helpful. I haven't seen a lot of it, but I go like kind of like that idea, because then I could just be like, oh, I can just listen to this section of it, versus sitting on for a whole hour webinar, or recording that half the time I'm doing other stuff and I might miss the part I need.
But it's that creating that false sense of urgency too.
Yeah, and I
it's
totally
crazy.
I'm pretty good with the spam emails, and I know which ones are
Right.
spam, but it can be challenging sometimes. I mean,
Kind of like getting that MPI renewal 3 months out.
yeah, exactly. That's
I've mentioned that
when
to
you're
them,
trying
by
to
the
do
way,
it,
at the board
the
level.
false sense of urgency just bugs me.
Yeah.
I love the idea of those short videos, Susan, because and I think especially as the generations get younger, the ones that are exhibiting and planning, they're all into the video. So if you could have a video that's like specifically about ordering ahead of time, or specifically about how do you decide if you need this or that, then rather than 1 hour long, I'm not going to watch an hour long webinar on exhibiting, but if I can see these little bits that are pertinent, that would be amazing. Sorry, Tara, go ahead.
No, I was actually going to say that exact thing about having like a checklist with a short video associated with it, so you can kind of do that.
That's a good way
but
to
then
combine it together. I like that idea.
Yeah, I like that a lot, putting
You
it
know,
with the
here's the
checklist.
material
Yeah, that's a
handling
great idea.
information.
like, how do I do
You can
this?
watch the
Check
video
on
if you
it.
need to, otherwise check
Yeah.
that you've done it, you know, kind of thing.
I'm sure everyone's had this before where, you know, someone's
Sorry.
new to the industry. It's their first show they're planning and you get, you know, what's under padding on a carpet? Like, do I, you know, we can send a list of the early bird pricing for, you know, power or this, but a lot of people don't know what power they need. They're visual, so maybe having like, you know, a 30-second, you know, your power requirements here, you know, or something like that, where if Susan doesn't know, okay, so I need a 30-watt, you know, just showing what it looks like, or what is under padding. Maybe even if the show comes with, you know, XYZ, maybe even a 10-second video of this is what your 10x10, you know, comes with, or your 20x30. Just a quick, you know, you're getting 2 chairs, you're getting 1 4-foot table. Because again, people are visual. But Steve, let's say you know what's going on. You don't have to click on that video. It's there on your checklist. But
Yeah, that's why I like what Tara was saying, the checklist and the video next to it.
Yeah.
So you can just check it off and be like, I don't need to watch that video.
Yeah.
Like that.
And then I also was going to say, I don't know if this is too old school, but for new exhibitors to your shows that you know are new, maybe a phone call, like an actual phone call, and take them through everything to avoid any miscommunication and to mitigate the email spamming issue.
I like that idea because I have a new show we're at that there's somebody from the, you know, GSE's concierge person keeps sending an email every week with the exact same message. And finally I was like, you know what, I'm going to reply to her with my questions that have nothing to do with what she's sending. But I think they're trying to provide that personalized service because it is a new show for us. And it's funny, but it's not personalized in any way. So some sort of, you know, little more customized message would be nice.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe even if it's an option, if you can go in there like Calendly, or you can click on a consultation with the show, that would be helpful.
That's a great idea, because I was just putting in the notes where we had a smaller show and they actually scheduled a call with us to say, hey, you know, this looks like a new show for you, or maybe it's been a while. Let's get together and make sure that you have everything you need. We brought our exhibitor partner on with us so that they could talk the language, because it wasn't really super clear to us or to a new planner, you know, what the deal was, but they just scheduled it. Like there was no like, are you available? How could they have possibly done that with all the people that they have exhibiting? But if it was like, hey, please schedule a time, here's my Calendly, at least I could have done it on my time and knowing what their schedule already was.
Yeah.
And not have to miss it because there was a conflict. That's brilliant.
That's a great idea.
That's also a great way to build a rapport on both ends. So I mean, it's a win-win there as well.
Yeah.
So with time, I mean, we could talk about that topic forever, and probably something we can talk about again. Before we go on to another sort of different, veer off to a different sort of question or topic. After this meeting, we'd love to know in the exhibitor community, what are topics you want to see in the future? Today, again, was more relaxed, more chill, just sort of, you know, planting those seeds, understanding where we're coming from. But in the future, is there a direct topic? Because it might be pulling someone who's an expert to talk in a future talk, or hey, pulling someone from the community who's an expert, who's not on the committee as well. So we want to hear that. Also, please share it if you feel there's anyone who would benefit from this. Growing just means the fact that we have more heads that we can talk, collaborate together. So a little more less dry, fun question is the wow factor. We all, you know, I don't think any of us, whether we go to an event, plan an exhibition, trade show booth, there's nothing better than just walking away and saying, wow, I wish I thought of that, you know, that was cool. I mean, we've all seen, you know, I won't say because I don't want to, if anyone does it at their booth, and everything has a place, but what is the coolest thing maybe since January 1st, or if you haven't been or run something since then in the last 6 months, what is that one thing maybe you've activated or you've seen where you're like, well, that's the future, or, you know, other people have to know about that, whether it's a design of a booth, an activation at a booth?
I can go really quick while I took a hot sip of tea. I have seen a little bit of AI come into managing exhibit booths. I think it's still fairly new for most of us, but there are some conferences that has offered AI's integration into some of these questions to save the organizers from a handful of questions. So you, in a way, train your AI as one of your staff to order. So that's something new that I've seen, haven't interacted beyond this one conference. And I'm sure most of you have seen interactive floor plans. That's, you know, that's been around, but it's something that I've been really enjoying. Those two things I would say are something that I liked, and that's something new to me. And just for background, we at Canada Health InfoA participate in about 40 to 50 exhibit per year, which is quite a handful. And we also host a conference twice a year, having one of them having exhibit portion. Pardon me, both of them having exhibit portion. So I've been on both seats, so I completely understand the challenges from both perspectives.
Thank you, Amelia, especially with the fact you're not feeling well to put that in. What are other things that people have been seeing, you know, whether their event, other events, something that's wowed them, a booth, something at the trade show, because that's a good point I didn't mention before that Amelia put in there, like something you've seen that's just like, wow, like every trade show needs this. Or maybe it is like that really cool activation. I know Stephanie, one she was showing Tara and I last Friday, was that where she is, Skyjack, they did a very simple old school claw machine. Doesn't get simpler than that. But they stuffed it with like stuffed animals, really cool prizes, like logoed with Skyjack. And then they did a wrap around it. So it was branded. Simple, but fun. I know at our show last year, we did have an exhibitor do that as well. And there was lines for that claw machine. People love a claw machine.
They really do.
Yeah, it's like all you need is like a prize, and it's people act like they're 6 years old again in the mall, right? Like they love it.
I'm gonna say most of the shows I do are pharmaceutical based and medical, so we can't do a lot of giveaway stuff, but it's always the hospitality. It's the, you know, we can give away food and beverage at, you know, minimal cost. So I'm always looking for unique ideas for that. Which can be a challenge because everybody's doing every other booth has something. So it's like, what makes us stand out and be different?
Sean, another thing that I've seen is a CSR activity at a booth. So for companies that can't do, you know, a cool Apple TV giveaway or something like that, I've seen, I don't know, plant a tree and, you know, like it goes to a community or they get to actually replant it, or sanitary kits or some things like that. Those are some meaningful activations that actually have longer stay time at the booth, which leads to a lot more conversation.
So true. I know we see that a lot in Canada, and I think we're thinking about the same CSR company. Because I know they did one in Ottawa the other week or a few weeks ago, similar, where they were doing what's it called, like shelter kits, like for the winter. So they were like scarves, and definitely it's impactful.
We've worked with quite a few clients that, including like exhibitors, that they'll bring that charitable donation into their booth, and they'll have like a clear plexiglass with separated sections that you have different colored balls. So when someone comes to visit the show, they can see two different options for a charitable donation, and then you can phrase it in a way that you're doing this in replacement of a giveaway, that you'll be donating that line item to both of these charities, and then people can see it fill up when it's clear with different colors, and it gives people that like dopamine hit of giving back and that socioeconomic impact that they can make personally by dropping it and having that satisfaction. So that's a unique way of doing it and pretty low cost, especially if you do it with something pretty inexpensive.
We did
I've
some
actually never heard of that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
we did something similar, Matt, where we had same idea but on a wall, and it was different colored envelopes. So you could drop into that colored envelope which charity you wanted to donate to, and they could write a message on the outside just for personalization. So it became a wall of everybody's messages, as well as a CSR touch. Something else we've done is a flower bouquet making. And we had a back wall where we had a bag they could drop it in if they didn't want to carry it around the show, but it was real small, something they could take with them and just place in their room, you know, for a little bit of time before they go home.
That's really neat. I know there's two people on this call who might have seen this at the show that I managed. It was 2 years ago. And she was actually making mini candles. Actually, like doing like mini candles. To be fair, her business was gifting, and it was candles at the time, and she then expanded. But what she did was she took some leftovers, she kind of upcycled, where at the holiday season just before, she did like keychains. She had a lot left. She wasn't going to use them. So she basically used the keychain piece, which was going to go to waste, put the candle on it, and then on the keychain it had her address. So rather than give out cards, wastage, I mean, there's still waste there, but use that as a unique sort of giveaway.
Like that. We've paired with quite a few clients too that do headshot studios, because everyone does a headshot studio. But the exhibitors that are around the headshot studio will set up like a salon, so they can get like a quick blowout of their hair, or a quick makeup if they want to touch up before they get their headshot done. And that usually has a line wrapped around. And another big thing we're seeing is barber shops, people actually getting their hair cut on the exhibit hall floor. A lot of hearts coming from you, Sean.
Matthew, I used to work at the Metro Toronto Convention Center in Toronto some time ago, and that just reminded me, they used to have this is obviously a different type of scope of an event, but they've had a tattoo activation. So you literally get a physical tattoo at a booth, which wouldn't work for our company, but something very interesting.
Awesome.
We produce AWS, and it was a huge activation at reInvent this past November. We thought it was the first time they tried it. We did not think people were really going to buy into it, getting an AWS tattoo, but there was a line waiting for hours to get a small tattoo on them. So tattoos are a thing that are starting to pop up, because depending on your audience, it could be a fit. But that's the thing, is like making sure you're finding the activation that fits well with your audience, because you're not going to do tattoos with medical professionals necessarily. And I always think giveaways like are specific to the audience makes so much more sense. Like medical professional, something simple like a really nice pen that has weight to it is so much better than that like cheap pen giveaway, because they use pens all the time, but it's something that connects more with that audience. And more, give less. I love that.
I love that about the barbershop. I've never heard of that. Like I've heard of like when people do like the mobile nail, the mobile like mani-pedi, the massage. I don't see that as much anymore, but that was a big thing way back when. But I love the haircut. Amelia, love the tattoo idea, because even if you're like me, maybe I don't want a tattoo, I think it'd be really cool to go with my friends at a show and be like, you know, get a tattoo. So it's very experiential. And yeah, let's spend more, give less. Because at the end of the day, I think we have enough, all of us, we can raise our hands, like maybe I'm wrong, but enough koosh balls, enough cheap pens that are going to end up, unfortunately, in the landfill. It's really the things like, you know, getting a Yeti bottle like that I'm going to keep.
Experiences. That's a
Oh.
big thing that people will give away now too, is like a raffle, especially if it's like the spend more, give less. There's only one or two of them that they can give, but they only give a raffle ticket to somebody who is engaging in that conversation. It's not like that everyone can come up and drop a business card in like for the Yetis, which unfortunately 90% of the time are rigged. From most of us as exhibitors, those people that are managing the booth, they're looking for a hot lead, so they give it to the hottest lead. I learned that early on in my industry at Springtime in the Park. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of that show that used to be in DC, and they were raffling off a car, and I thought I was going to win it because I entered my business card multiple times. And my mentor at the time was like, "You're never going to win. You're not a planner."
Oh my God. So you have to be very interested when you engage with these people to be considered.
Interested
Yeah.
and authentic.
And authentic. Yeah, it's very important to be authentic.
Yeah.
Well, with 4 minutes left, I think we'll sort of tie it there. Want to thank everyone for coming today. I think we could have gone on for a lot longer, which is encouraging because we are going to do more of these as the year goes on. I know this was a small and mighty group, but the idea is as we grow to do more of these, and hey, if God willing, we do grow a bit more, we can do stuff like breakout rooms to get more engaged. This is really not, at the end of the day, time is currency. I believe that fully. So thank you for spending your time, whether it's 8, well, I think it's 9 the earliest, or 10 now, or whether it's us where it's 1. Thank you for spending your time with us when you could have spent that currency elsewhere. The whole end result of this community is we want to be a community. We want to be able to lean on each other. I want to be able to go to Susan on LinkedIn and, you know, in a private chat and now be able to say, hey, I know you're this side of the industry. Have you seen this? Can you help me? Any tips or, you know, trade? I didn't know Matt from anyone, 9-10 months ago. And now he's someone that I can have that conversation. Same with Christina. Tara, I've had the pleasure of knowing a little longer. So this is really meant exactly what it is, a community. We can help each other grow together. And more than anything, it's not what we want to talk about. It's we want our community to tell us what you want to know, what initiatives, what can we look into? Is there any information, surveys, what can help you do your job better and be better? And then talk about on future calls. So just a little bit about where we are. I am going to stop the recording. We are going to put it up for posterity. And if there is anyone you know in your day-to-day you feel MPI member who should be joining this, please feel free to invite them. This is really about growing our knowledge and our sense of belonging as a community here. So
Well said, Sean. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thanks for
Sean.
working on this.
Thank
This is
you.
a great community.
thank you for joining. And so I can say my famous, for those who know me, going to give you 1 minute back in your day.
I'll take
Enjoy that, cherish it, and we will talk soon. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Nice
Bye.
meeting everyone.
Bye.
Nice meeting you, everyone.
Bye.